Good evening, and welcome to True Doug Man Encounters. I'm your host, Marvin Allen. First and foremost, I would like to give a shout out to all the subscribers who have supported me. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please go and do so. Um, Quick thing before I get into this encounter. About a week ago, I was separating the encounters I already did and the ones that I haven't got to yet. And I came, across this one encounter that I've been meant to put out there, but I never did. So what I did was I had called the guy because I still had his number. I had called the guy and I had asked him, would he mind, going back over his encounter? And he said, didn't I give it to you already? I said, yeah, can you just go back over it for me? So he did, and basically it was still the same. It haven't changed. So I asked him if he could if I could speak to his daughter, and he said, well, she's over her mother house right now, but I'll call her and let her know that you'll be calling her. So he did. And I called her and I asked her, same thing, if she wouldn't mind. And she said that she really didn't want to talk about it no more because she was trying to block it out of her mind. And I said, I understand. But I said, you need to talk to somebody. So she said, okay. She finally told me. And basically, her story didn't change either. So before I get into the counter, a few other things. He still didn't give me the location, I guess due to certain reasons, because he don't want nobody coming out on his property and stuff like that. And I truly respect that. So let's get into this encounter right here. Now, he said that he was living with his wife. They was living in the city. Like I said, I won't mention what city and where the encounter took place because he asked me not to. Said he was living with his wife, and his wife got a job which, puts her to travel, to different places. And one day they was in there, him and his wife, and they was going back and forth, and the daughter overheard them arguing, So later on that day, she asked her father, she said, Daddy, is y'all getting separated? He said, no, honey, we just going through something. She got a job, so we're going to go and stay at my parents' house, because his parents had left him, a house out in the country. So he said, I'm going to just take you with me. She said, so I can't stay here with mommy. He said, your mother not going to be here, because of her job. So mother decided it was best, that she did go and stay with the father. So that's what she did. So they get out there, they unpack, put everything in the house and stuff like that. Sat down, he talked to his daughter, and he tried to let her know that, look, this is only, temporarily. We're going to stay here until me and your mother, can work things out. So daughter said, okay, I understand. So our first couple of days, she said that she stayed in the house. She didn't really go out. So around the fifth day, she goes outside. Now, in her backyard, the backyard got this big tree. I don't know if it was an oak tree. Can't remember what kind he said, but they said it was a big tree in the backyard. And it was like a swing set out there that his father had built when he was, when he was a little boy. So she used to go out there and swing on the, swing set all the time. She said, so one day when she was out there swinging on the swing set, she noticed that this dog came around the side of the house, around the gate, and it came and it stood right there at the front gate, right there with the fence where you open up and let him in. And she said the dog was just moving back and forth, like she didn't know what was wrong, but it kept moving back and forth. She said then it sat down, on his butt. So she got off the swing. She said she walked over there into the gate. She said, what's wrong, boy? You lost? She said, after she said that, she said the dog turned around quick and stared straight up in the woods, into the tree line. And it just bolted. It took off running. It ran right back around the side of the house and back onto the main road. She don't know why. you know. But she just thought that that was, it was just real crazy. So she goes in the house and, she tell her father, she say, Dad, I think it's somebody dug around here because I just seen it at the back gate. She said, but then it ran off. So the father said, well, it probably is somebody dug. So, stay away from it because I don't want it to bite you or nothing like that. She said, it looked friendly. He said, it might be friendly, but stay away from it. So she said, okay. So she said she stays in the house, later, for the rest of the day. She said the next day, she in a room. She looking out the window because everything was on one floor. She looking out her bedroom window. So she just happened to look down towards where the tree and at the end of the gate, she noticed that the dog come around again. And it came around there and it stood right there by the gate. It was going back and forth, back and forth. Then it sat down on its butt again. So she goes out the house, go out the back patio, go down, down the steps, and she walks down there again. And she said, what's wrong, boy? What's wrong, boy? You want to come in? She just, like, just trying to communicate with the dog. So the dog did the same thing that it did before. It turned real quick. It looked up in the tree line. Ears was sitting straight up. Then it fell. They went back. And it just took off. Went back around the side of the house again and ran back off out into the road. So she, as it was running off, she was like, come back, boy, what's wrong? So the dog gone. So she goes back in the house and she tells her father again. She say, I think the dog might be lost and it might be trying to find a home. He said, baby, evidently it's somebody dug. So, I don't want to, take somebody else's dog. She say, but daddy, he said, look, just leave the dog alone. So she really got an attitude. So she went in her, she just went in her room because she was mad. She said later on that night, she was sitting in her room. Now, she said where her bed was, it was facing like the back wall. But she said if you look forward, she had a window right there. And she said she always slept with the curtains open. At the window, so the curtains would be open so she could look out of it. Now, the only light that they had was the light that set on, on the patio, over top of the patio. So she said she was laying in the bed one night and she said she heard something just tap, like it tapped like that. It kept tapping like it tapped on the window. So she sat up, she looked and she was like, who's out there? Nobody say nothing. So she laid back down again. She heard the tapping again. Tap, 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 tap. She jumped back up and looked again. She said, who is out there? Nothing. She said, but when she was getting ready lay back down again, she said that's when she saw this shadow. She just saw a dark shadow just shoot across the window real fast. So she jumps out the bed. She goes in the room. She say, Daddy, something just ran past my window. Father grabs his gun. He goes out the house, walks around, and he looks. He don't see nothing though. So he come back in the house. He say, baby, you sure you saw something? He say, Daddy, I'm telling you, I saw this dark shadow run across the window. He said, well, it's nothing out there. So she getting mad now because she think that her father don't believe her. So she lay down and she goes to sleep. She said, so about 2 days later, she goes out back again. She was sitting on the patio this time. She said that's when she see the dog coming around again. And it sat in the same spot that it would always sit at, right there at the gate where you open it up at. It sat right there. And it looked up at her, up in the yard, and it barked. It barked twice. And she got up, got ready to go down there. She said, but when she got almost to the gate, it did the same thing again. It turned, ears went up, went back, and it hauled tail. It ran. Went back out, ran in the road. She don't know why it was doing that, So she went back in the house again. She didn't tell her father that the dog came back. So she said she stayed in the house, all day. She didn't even go back out. So she said about a week later, she said, Dad, I'm going to just go out in the backyard and, I'm going to just, swing on the swing. Because he always told her, don't go far, if it ain't really with an adult. or with him. So she goes out there, she swing on the swing. She said after about 15 minutes, here come this Doug again. Comes around, comes right back there at the front of that gate, and it paced back and forth. Then it sets down on his butt. When it sat down on his butt this time, she said, hold on, I'll be right back. Trying to communicate with the Doug. So she said she runs in the house. She goes in the house, she get a piece of chicken. So she goes back out and she walks back down to the gate. And she was like, here boy, you hungry, you hungry? She said she kindly opened the gate up, opened it. The Doug came in. She locked it. She threw the piece of chicken down in the grass and he ate it. And then he looked at her, wagging his tail and stuff, like he was happy. She said all of a sudden it did the same thing again. It turned, looked up in that tree line, ears was up. It barked twice. They went back and it just ran up towards her, up towards the back patio. And she said, what is wrong with you? Because she don't know what's going on. So she walks up there and she, open the back patio. She takes the Doug in the house. She called her father out his room. He comes out, he said, Dad. And he said, what you doing with that Doug in here? She said, Dad, I really want to keep him because I'm lonely, I'm bored, I don't have no friends, I don't have nobody to play with. Can I please keep this Doug? He said, I think that's somebody Doug. She said, okay, Daddy, if they do come and somebody saying they missing a Doug, then I will get a Doug back. He said, okay, but you're going to take care of him. You're going to clean him. You're going to feed him. You're going to get his mess up and everything. So she said, okay. So that day they put the Doug in the car, They went to go, they took it to a vet, to get the Doug checked out, make sure he didn't have nothing, Only thing he had that they said that he had, he had lice, and fleas. So they took care of that and everything. She took him back home. She washed him and bathed him and everything, and took him in the room, and he would sleep in the bed with her. She said, so one night, while they was in there, laying in the bed, and the Doug sleeping beside her, she said she winds up falling asleep. She said, but something woke her because she said when she woke up, she heard the Doug, like it was panting, like, it was panting, but it was looking straight at that window. And she said, she started rubbing him, stroking his head. And she said, what's wrong, boy? What's wrong? And it was just looking straight at that window. So she said when she looked at this window, she said she could see these two bright amber color looking eyes looking in the window, but she don't know what it is. She just know it's pretty black, but she could see those yellow eyes. So she was like, what the is that? She didn't cuss or nothing like that. She said, what the is that? So she looking. She said all of a sudden, she heard this like this crack sound, a crack or a pop sound. And she said a few seconds later, she said them eyes started to rise up. And it rose up to the top of her window. And it's like it's looking down in the window, but it's looking straight at her. She said when that thing or whatever it was did that, she screams. Ah! Real loud. Father come in there, run in the room. She say, Daddy, it's something outside my window. I seen it stand up and it had them yellow eyes. So he runs out. He grabs his gun. He goes out, running around there. He looking. He walks down to the end of the gate. He looking. He don't see nothing. So he walks back up to the window. He said when he went back up to the window, he noticed that he could smell this strong urine smell. And he said it smelled like a Doug too, like a Doug was wet. And so he went back in the house. He said, have the Doug been, urinating by the window? And she said, no, when I have him outside, I make sure he goes down to the end of the gate, and if he messed, then I gets that up, in a little baggie. So he said it smelled like some strong urine and like a wet Doug by your window. So he said, well, I'm going to come back out in the morning. I'm going to check it again. So the next day he comes out and he looking at a window. So he looks up at the window, and he noticed that the window sits 8 feet from the ground on up. It sits like 8 feet. So he thinking what his daughter said this, whatever it was, it stood up. So he said, baby, is you sure what you saw looked like it stood up? He said, Daddy, I watched the eyes go up, and then I just seen a dark figure. I don't know what it was. He said, that's like 8 to 9 feet tall, from where she said that she seen them eyes at. So she said, Daddy, what, you don't believe me? He said, yeah, baby, I believe you. But she said deep down inside, she didn't think that, her father really believed her. So she said a couple of days later, she took the leash, put it on the dog, and she decided, to take a walk in the woods. Not real far, but she said she wanted to take a walk, just to get out the house and to get out the yard. So she said she put the leash on the dog. So she said before she got to the gate, the dog just stopped. And she pulling the leash. Come on, boy, let's go, come on. We're going for a walk, come on. Dog wouldn't move. It wasn't going nowhere. It tried to pull back with her on the leash. So she said, oh. So she said she took the dog and took it back in the house. And she said she decided, she was going to just walk, a little bit up in the tree line, up in the woods. She said because she remember when she was a little girl, father used to take her up in there. So she said she walks up in there. So she said after she walked for like a few minutes, she said she noticed that she said she just got this overwhelming feeling. She said it felt like she was being watched, like something was looking at her, but she don't know what. She said then she just got this smell that she said it smelled like strong urine, like it just smelled like strong pee, and it smelled like that wet dog. Same thing that her father was saying. So she's scared. She turns around and she goes back in the house because she wasn't that far from the house. So she goes back in the house. She stay in the house the rest of the day. So mind you, I told you that they had a little swing set out there. So the next day, father gets up early. He gets up and, he goes to take the trash out. Say when he took the trash out, he noticed that the whole swing set was pulled down. I mean, the big branch and all, because it was on a thick, heavy branch. He said the whole thing was pulled down. So he goes back in and he asks his daughter, he said, did you break the swing set? She said, no, Dad, I didn't break the swing set. I haven't been out. He said, because I know it was up yesterday. So she said, Dad, I didn't break that swing set. I'm not even strong enough to pull it down. So he thinking in his mind, he don't know, he really don't know what did it. So he said, well, we can really go in town because, got to get a couple of things. So they get in the car, they take the dog with them, they go in town, get what they had to get. And so they go back home. So by the time they get back home, it was, sun was just going down and it was starting to get dark. So she asked her father, she said, Daddy, can you just keep the patio light on out back, so I can see, out my window and to see if anything is out there. So he said, all right, baby. So he left it on. So say she laying in the bed and she falls asleep. And the same way the dog woke up last time, she heard it pouting on paint and stuff like that. It did the same exact thing. She jumps up and she said, what's wrong, boy? And she looked. And she said when she looked this time, she can see a figure outside the window. She can see a figure. She said, but this figure, it messed her head up. She said because she said she swear that this thing had a head of a dog, just like the dog she got laying right beside her. She said what was looking in her window looked like a dog. But she said, oh, how is that a dog in my window set up too high? Now she said that this thing came just about a foot from the ground up in her window. So it must have been down, squatting. So she looking at this thing. She said the ears was straight up on it. It had them glowing eyes. And she said when she looked at this thing, she said she could see this thing's teeth. And she said they was long. She said this thing had some long teeth. So she looking at this thing. She said she couldn't move at the time because she was so scared. It's like she was in a trance or something, you know. So she's still looking at this thing. She say the dog barks. And when it barks, she snaps out of it. She screams again. That's when her father runs in the room again. And he said, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? She said, Daddy, that thing was outside my window again. And I know what it was this time. He said, what? She said it was a dog. And so he runs outside. He checks around again. But he don't see nothing. But he smell a foul odor back there. Like something dead. And it's still lingering in the air. So he goes back in the house and he say, I don't know what's going on, baby. I don't know if we should call somebody out here because evidently you seeing something, but I don't know what it is. He say, Daddy, that thing looked like a dog looking in my window. So he said, all right, baby. If it keep happening, then I'm going to have to call somebody. So she said, why can't you call somebody now? She said, baby, because we don't know what it is. She said, I told you what it is. It was a dog. So he called her mother. And he said, I don't know if it's because of our separation, but I think, our daughter's making up stuff saying that she's saying things outside the window. So he was trying to send her to see a psych doctor, but the mother was like, no, my baby not crazy. And she not going to see no psych doctor. So he left it as that. So they seemed to do nothing else about it. So about 3 days later, she said she was in the house. So she decided, while it was still a little bit of light outside, and she wanted to go out back and sit on the back patio. So she goes out on the back patio. Doug go with her. Doug is laying on her left side. Just laying there. So she said after about 10 minutes, she noticed that the dog popped up. And it looked as straight down into them woods. And the dog started barking real loud. So she said, what's wrong, boy? What's wrong? What's wrong? You see something? You see something? So she said when she looked down there, she sees those glowing eyes. She said, but she can't see this thing, but she see them eyes moving in the tree line. It moved from the left to the right. Then it moved from the right to the left. So she got up and went in the house because she was so scared. And her father was like, what's wrong? She said, nothing ain't wrong, Dad. I'm okay. I'm going to just go in my room and go to sleep. So she goes in her room and she lay down and she tried to go to sleep. She said this particular night, it was kind of hot, She didn't have a fan in her room. And this was like during the summertime, like in August. So anyways, she said she had cracked the window a little bit. She opened it up a little bit and then she locked them back up top because she said the windows they had, you could just lock them so the window wouldn't go up but so far once you let it up. So she said she was, she was just laying in there, and just staring at the ceiling. She said all of a sudden, something told her to look. She said because she had got this feeling that something was looking in the window. So she said something told her to look. So she sat up a little bit and she looked at the window. And she said when she looked at the window, she saw that thing again. She said this time, these black hands was inside her window. These huge black hands, she said, was inside her window. And she said she could clearly see them. And this thing was trying to lift up her window. But I mean, it was literally trying to lift up her window because she only let it up for a breeze to come in. But this thing was trying to lift up her window. So she screams again. Father come running in there. She say, Daddy, that thing tried to get in my window. He runs outside again. He don't see nothing, but he still smell that foul odor. The next day, he goes out there and he look at the window. And it's like, the side thing on the window, because they had the siding. He looking at that. And when he look at the siding, he see that it's like it got smear marks on it. Like from mud or something like that. He didn't know what it was. He know, but he bent down because he didn't know if it was blood or something like that because it had a funny color to it. And he smelt it. And he said that it smelt it real bad. It smelt it real foul. So this time he say, he gonna call somebody. So he calls, the sheriff, and they come out. And he said, sheriff come out, we talked to him. He said, I don't know what, but it's been somebody behind my in the back of my house and my daughter window. So he said, do you know what it was or who it was? He said, no, I don't know. He said, a description of what it was. So he said, no, I don't know what it was, So he didn't want to come out and say what his daughter saw when she said she saw this thing, looking in the window and it looked like a dog. So the sheriff said, well, you got to give me something to go on. He said, all I know is that it had on all black. So he took their statement and I guess what he gave it to him. And he said that he left. He said he felt bad, because he trying to help his daughter as much as he can. And, he want to believe her, but he haven't seen anything, to exactly say what it is. He smelt the foul smell in the urine, but he never seen nothing. So he said one day they was sitting, just off the living room, where you could see, straight out the patio, and they had the curtains open. He said it was dark during this time, and he said that he was sitting there, and the Doug, sitting down there with him. So he said all of a sudden he caught something out the corner of his eye, down by this big tree that they had in their backyard. He said he caught something out the corner of his eye. He said, and when he looked, he could see that something was standing up by the tree, right beside the tree, because he can see this figure, this dark figure. So he rubbed his eyes because he thinking he's seeing things now. He rubbed his eyes. And after he finished rubbing his eyes, it's like this figure, it moved. It's like it took a few steps and it moved. And it stood right there exactly in front of this tree. Now he know what his daughter saw and that she wasn't lying. He saw when he looked out there, he saw what looked like a dog standing up bipedal. It had the pointy ears. It had the snout. He said this thing was so dark, it's like it absorbed the light. He said, but he could clearly see this thing. He said this thing had long arms that hung down in front of it. He said it had a funny posture to it because he wasn't standing straight up. He said it was like it was standing up on his tiptoes. Like if a person was standing on the tiptoe, said it was standing up like it was standing on his tiptoe. He said, and it was hunched over a little bit. Now he looking at this thing, he messed up in the head. And so he taps his daughter. He say, baby, turn around real slow. He said, why, Daddy? What's wrong? He said, don't make no noise. Turn around real slow. And I want you to look. And I want you to tell me if this that thing that you seen. She turns around real slow. And she looked. And when she seen it, she was getting ready to scream, and he grabbed her mouth. He was like, no, don't do that. Don't scream. He said, is that thing you seen? She said, yes, Daddy. That's it. But I didn't know that his body was like that. I told you what I saw when I seen it outside my window. So they both sitting there and they watching this thing. And this creature is looking straight up at the patio door. Like it know that they there. Like it can really see them. And it's just watching them. He said, and this went on, it seemed like it went on for a long time. He said, but it had to be about 120 seconds at the most. He said, then this thing, it turned around and it walked towards the gate. They said when it got about 10 feet at the gate, he said this thing just leaped. It just leaped so high and over the gate, then took another leap into the woods up and ran through the tree line. Father jumped up, locked the patio door because at this time he knew it wasn't locked. He never locked it. He locked the patio door and he closed the curtain. He said, baby, I don't know what that thing was. This is my first time seeing something that looked like that. He said, I'm scared for you. I want to send you back home to your mother, but she's still out of town. I don't want to tell her because I know she's going to tell me to take you to her sister's house. And I'm trying to spend as much time as I can with you. So she said, Daddy, I want to spend as much time as I can with you. So that was settled. He said he never told his wife. He didn't tell her yet, but further down the line, he did tell her. But he said he never told his wife. So she went in there and go to bed. Father said he sat in her room all night long, watching that window. All night. He said, but nothing came to the window. He said he sat up in his daughter's room for like 5 days, but nothing came to the window. Like it knew he was in there. So after about 2 weeks passed, because it wasn't really nothing going on. She used to go out back with the Doug, throw the ball, Doug would run and go get it and playing stuff like that. She say, but why, they was out there playing one day, she noticed that something had threw a rock in their yard. And it went like up in the trees. And she could hear it hit a branch, boom, and then it hit the ground. And she looking in the woods because she don't know what threw the rock or what could have threw the rock. So she was like, come on. She took the Doug and they went in the house. So Barbara said, what's wrong? She said, Daddy, something threw a rock from in the woods and I heard it hit the tree and then it hit the ground. So he was like, just stay in the house, baby, So she stayed in the house all day. So the father said that I'm gonna have to do something because this is getting carried away. This thing it keep taunting my daughter, and now I'm at a loss. So father say he started, staying up, every night. He would sit right there in the living room and he would had the patio door crack and he would wait till he seen this creature. And he kept his gun on him. So cocked and ready. So he said after about the 4th night, that's when he got action. He said he seen this creature walk out the tree line. Coming out the tree line. And it's coming towards their gate. Now mind you, the property that his parents had, that was the only house sit there. And then like about a mile away, then that's where another house was at. So they had nothing but woods around them. So he said he watched this creature walk out the tree line. And it walked out the tree line. Said this creature got to the gate. And then this creature just jumped. Boom. It jumped on the other side. And it's walking up towards the back patio. The father can see this. He watching this creature. He said, but for some reason, this creature stopped about 15 feet from where you go up the steps at. He said this creature stopped and it stood there. He said this creature just, it's like it poked its chest out, and then it starts sniffing the air. It just starts smelling around, just sniffing the air. And then it looked straight back into the back patio door. So he eased the door open. When he eased the door open, he face to face with this creature. And he watching it. Something in his head is telling him, don't pull that trigger because you might regret it. So he's saying that he's scared for his daughter because he don't know if it's more of these things out here walking around like that. He don't know what he looking at. But he said this thing, it was huge. He said this thing was massive. So he watching this thing, but he's scared to pull a trigger. This thing watching him. He said all of a sudden, this thing, it did what you would call, he said, like it was running towards him, but it stopped. And he said when it did that, something just clicked in his head, his reflexes. Boom, he shot. He didn't hit the creature. It hit the ground right beside it. But he could see some of the grass and, and it comes up out the ground because he watching all this. He said, then this creature did something where he knew that this thing had some type of intelligence. He said right where he shot at, he said the creature looked over and it looked down like it was looking at the spot where this bullet hit. He said right then and there, he knew that this thing had some type of intelligence. He said when it looked back up at him, he said this thing let out a growl that shook him to his core. Now, mind you, the gunshot woke the daughter up. Daughter jumps out of the bed. She runs in there and she comes, Daddy, what's wrong? And he tells the daddy, shh, be quiet. She walks over there to the window. She sees that thing. That's been watching her night after night after night in her window. She see this thing now. She said this thing was just breathing real heavy. I mean, it just seemed like every time it would breathe, his chest would get bigger, they said. They said, because this thing was just massive. So they watching this thing. He cocks the hammer back again. He said when he cocked this hammer back again, said this thing looked at him. He said when it looked at him this time, it's like this is his words and this is his daughter's words. They not mine. The way they give it to me, I'm going to give it to y'all. They say this thing, it like it tilted his head to the side. And then it put it back up. And then it tilted it to the other side. They said they don't know what that was about. They just telling me what this creature did. They said, and after it did that, this creature turned. Same way it came is the same way it left, the father said. Got down there to the gate, leaped, took another leap into the tree line up in the woods. So the daughter said, Daddy, did you hit it? He's like, no, baby. I was scared to shoot the gun. I only pulled the trigger because I thought it was running after me, but it stopped. He said, but something in my head clicked. And I shot one time, and it hit the grass. I didn't hit this creature. So the father said, man, we're going to have to do something. We're going to have to call somebody because I don't know if it's more of them things out there like that. And if that thing was to ever get in this house, it could kill both of us. So he was thinking real hard, yo, and they said it hurted him to his core because he didn't call nobody. He didn't reach out for help. He said he didn't want to feel like he was letting his daughter down by he couldn't protect her himself. So that's when pride kicked in. He didn't want to let another person come in and be the hero, So he just wouldn't call nobody. So he was stubborn. He was stuck in his ways. And he stood fast on that. He didn't call nobody. He said, so, the weeks went past, like 3 weeks. They was small activity, they would hear a howl there, she would hear sniffing at her window and stuff like that. She said, but it was like 3 weeks before this creature would come back again. And this time, it got a little too close for home, the father and the daughter said. So one day, after the 3 weeks had passed, they said one day, they was sitting in the living room. So the father, he winds up dozing off, in a lazy boy chair. So daughter's still up, Now, they got the curtains, pulled back, but they got the light on, so you see out back. She say, so she was just sitting there, the Doug sitting, sitting beside her, She said she was just, on her laptop computer. She say, but then the Doug, it just started whimpering again. She said, and this time when she looked up, she just seen this huge shadow of this creature on their top patio. She see this huge shadow of this creature on the patio. So she gets up, she walks over towards her father, and she shakes him. Daddy, she was, she said she had tears in her eyes. She was like, Daddy, get up. This thing is on the porch. The thing is on the porch. The father was half asleep. So he was like, and he wound up, just falling back to sleep. And she was scared to really shake him. She didn't want to make too much noise. She say, that's when this thing started messing with the knob of their patio door. That's when this thing was messing with it, trying to figure out how to get in. And it was, it was just jiggling it, boom, 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 just making noise. And she was like, Daddy, please get up. She hollered real loud. Father jumped up, what's wrong? And when he jumped up, that's when they both heard this growl, this low gruttle growl, yo. And this thing is right outside their patio door. Now the father don't want to shoot through the glass, because he gonna shatter all that. So they watching this thing. They said this thing that's paced down the other side, then it paced back and it stood there. And when it stood there, it hit the window. It hit the window. Boom. But it didn't break it, but it hit it. Boom. 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 They said it hit it like 4 times. And so the father say, man, I don't know what to do. So the daughter say, Daddy, please call somebody. Please call somebody. So father gets on the phone, he calls back out, he called the sheriff again. They comes out. Creature long gone now, they comes out. So the father say, he's trying to tell them, what happened. So what happened, sir? He said, what I'm going to tell you, I'm not crazy and my daughter not crazy. Man, it's some kind of wolf Doug man out here, man, walking around in these woods, and it was on my back patio trying to get in. So he looking at him like, run that by me again? And he tells him, he say, man, it's some kind of wolf man Doug out here, man. It was on my back patio trying to get in my house. So police was like, oh, come on. Okay. So police said, so you telling me that a wolf Doug man was trying to get in your house. Now he's trying to be sarcastic, and the father was like, father, he was cursing and everything because he mad, man. His daughter in here. And this man said he willing to die for his daughter, man. He ain't gonna let nothing happen to her. But the police wasn't no help. The father, he real heated and mad. He said, man, can you just leave my property? Never mind, forget I even called you. So the police, he leave. But he sat outside for a while in his squad car, just to see what this man, because he thought the man, he really thought the man was on drugs or something, or drinking or drunk or something. But the man don't use or he don't smoke or nothing like that. So he said after sitting outside in his squad car for about a half hour, he wind up leaving. The father don't go to sleep, no more that night. He stays up all night long. So he thinking, he said, man, I got to do something because I'm scared for my daughter and I don't want nothing to happen to her. Now, he contemplate now, do he need some kind of professional help? That's what he thinking, and when he told me, when they both told me their encounter, man, I sympathize with them because it's hard when you tell somebody you see something and they don't believe you. And the daughter, she had been messed up about saying this thing for a while. Like I say, she didn't really want to go back over what happened, but I had to talk to her and I had to ask, I said, look, you need to talk to somebody, which she did, and she gave me her exact story, but I just don't understand, man, when you reach out for help, why don't people believe you? That's the crazy part. But man, that was their encounter. That's what they gave me, all they gave me. I appreciate everything they did, He said he did finally reach out and get help, I won't say with who or put no names out there, but that was their encounter, and I hope you like it. Comment, like, and if I had more time, I'll be right back with another one. Thank you.